registered nurse.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Charles Colts.
Number 2.
My name is Charles Colts.
Number 3.
My name is Charles Colts.
And here is the interesting story of Charles Colts. He says, I, Charles Colts, am a registered nurse. Together with 3 other nurses, I opened up a private office and started treating patients. But before administering to their needs, I must have written instructions from a physician. Once this is received, I can change dressings, treat wounds, and give injections and blood transfusions. In addition, I instruct diabetics or heart patients in dietary practices. Although I will not diagnose major illnesses or prescribe medication, there can be no doubt that the work I perform is invaluable in relieving the workload of the busy doctor and in alleviating overcrowded hospital conditions. Signed, Charles Colts. Not only would it relieve the overcrowded hospitals, but then we wouldn't have so many cars parked around New York with MD plates on. There'd be some room for the people. Let's start the questioning with the daughter of a doctor. Let's go to Kitty Carlisle.
Thank you. Well, there may be a lot of cars parked around, Gary, but there's certainly not enough doctors. As anybody who's ever sat in a doctor's office knows, you're performing a great service, fellas, whoever you are. Number 1, where did you go to nursing school?
Rutgers University, New Jersey.
And you, number 2?
University of Pennsylvania.
And number 3?
Kings Park State Hospital.
Well, number 2, when you went to your school, weren't there mostly girls studying to be nurses?
In fact, there were, yes.
Were you the only boy?
No, there were 3 of us.
Did you feel funny?
Very.
Number 1, how many boys were there in your class?
28 out of a graduating class.
At Rutgers?
Right.
That's a lot. You didn't feel so funny then?
Well, no, there were 212 that were in a graduating class.
Uh-huh.
So it's still a small percentage.
And number 3, in this office of yours, who works with you? Do you have other registered male nurses or female nurses?
There's 2 other females and 1 other guy.
I see. Number 2, generally...
And that takes us on down to Bird Convey.
Thank you, Gary. Number 3, how many years does it take to complete the course that you took?
Depends on what you do. For me, it was 3 years.
I see. Number 1, what are doctors' opinions of what you're doing? Do they feel it's competition or what?
At first, there was some resentment, but afterwards, they felt that we were serving a service within the community.
Number 2, do they send you the patients now?
Yes, they do.
Refer patients to you? Number
Right.
3, you cannot advertise like as doctors cannot. Is that correct?
Yes, we can. Just word of mouth, actually.
But in other words, you can't take an ad out and say, see us first, and so forth and so on.
No.
No, you can't do that. Number 2, are you protected in any way like doctors are from for instance, malpractice, which I'm not accusing of, but I wonder, is there any protection for you?
Yes, I do have a malpractice insurance policy.
Well, then, thank you.
And from Bert, we go to Peggy.
Number 1, do you make home visits like doctors don't?
Surprisingly enough, 80% of my business is home visits. We do make house calls.
Oh, that's what it house calls, home visits. Okay. Now, number 3, where's Kings Park? You said you trained at Kings Park?
That's in Suffolk County, Long Island.
Thank you. Now, number 2, how long do you have to, what is the equivalent of interning? How long do you have to be at a hospital before you get your nurse's degree?
1 year.
Number 1, do you have a little hat you wear that's the badge of your hospital? I mean, how do you do that? How can I tell where you did intern? I mean, the nurses have little hats that said,
Yeah, pretty much what you see me in now pretty much is my working uniform.
You don't wear a little white suit?
No, I have the times if the service calls for it, I wear a smock, but that's about it.
Oh, okay. Number 3, how much do you charge for a vitamin B12 shot?
In the office, it's $5 an injection.
And if you came to my house?
Oh, I'm sorry, that buzzer went off then. And Bill Cullum.
I gather from the answers it makes a difference in where you get the shot.
Yeah.
On occasion, he may do it for free.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And number, it's awful. Number 2, am I correct in assuming that this particular service isn't all that terribly unique, or do you pretend that it is? Wasn't it always possible, under a physician's instructions, to have a registered nurse do
Yes.
various things?
Yes, in fact it was, but trying to go through
A whole lot of rigmarole, or trying to get out of it, in fact, and gaining a doctor's confidence either by word of mouth or personal appearance, why you can in effect get this work done, and he'll refer patients to you.
Are there outfits, companies, or organizations like yours here in New York City?
No, there is not.
Number one, do you go along with that there is no place in New York City that I can call up and get a nurse who has been approved by a physician to change dressings and treat wounds and things like that?
Not one that's centrally located. I practice in New Jersey, and in the entire state of New Jersey, there's only my office in Parsippany.
All right, there goes the bell, friends, and that means no more questions. Take your crayons and mark on them a big number 1, or a big number 2, or a big number 3. Kitty has made a mark, and I'd like to know what it is.
Well, I think I like the answers that number 2 gave. I think number 1 really didn't know that all the nurses' caps mean something about where they finished their training. And number 3 is very good, but I want to go to number 2. I want to see him give me shots and change the dressings.
Things are getting widely off the track here. However, we have a 2 there, and number 2, if you're the right one, you know where. Well, anyway, you're gonna have Bert Condry.
I think they probably are all nurses, and I don't want any of them to come visit me, so it's perfect. It's perfectly straight and above board here, fellas. But I do think that number 2 is the one. I couldn't tell you why. He just looks like he's got the muscle to get that needle in there. That's
We got a pair of 2s, and Peggy.
Well, you see, if you had a wound and you couldn't walk, number 2 is big enough to carry you around. So I voted for him.
All right, everybody's got 3 2s. Bill Cullen looks glum.
I can, you look at people and you get a picture, and I picture number 3 as carrying Peggy around as he goes on his way to give Kitty a shot. And I'll join you if you wait. I voted for number 3.
All right, not quite unanimous, but that's the way it goes. The votes are in with the real Charles Colts. Please stand up. Bill Cullen. Feminine logic usually works, but animal magnetism has something to do with it also. Let's find out who our imposters are. Number 1, sir, what is your real name and what do you do?
My name is Rick Palmer, and I'm a student at Rutgers University.
Nice to have you here. Peggy Cash, you're gonna die. Number 2, tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Bob Tucker, and I'm a professional football player.
Oh, my God, he can carry you around.
Yes, sir, I want to tell you, this guy, you want to get a shot from him, you're going to get a shot. As a matter of fact, all pro. It's a marvelous idea, Charles Colts, indeed, and I wish you well with it. And thank you all. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us on number 2.